The emergency lights flashed red across the council chamber. Shiara pressed her delicate hands against the viewing screen and watched another colony world go dark. That made 15 worlds in 2 months. 15 planets full of living beings. Now silent, the Velkoth were coming. Around the massive circular chamber, representatives from 300 species argued and shouted. Some wanted to flee. Others wanted to negotiate. A few talked about mounting a defense, but everyone knew the truth. The Galactic Council had no real military. They had peacekeepers, trade monitors, and diplomatic vessels. For 3,000 years, that had been enough. The Velkoth did not care about diplomacy. Shara was young for a council representative, barely 200 years old. Her people, the Lysandri, were known for their patience and wisdom. They were philosophers and artists. Their crystal bodies reflected light in beautiful patterns when they were happy. Right now, Shiara's body was the dull gray of deep fear. She had an idea. A terrible, desperate idea. "We should contact the humans," she said. The chamber fell silent. 300 species stopped arguing and stared at her. Then the shouting started again, louder than before. "The Deathworlders? Are you insane? They are quarantined for a reason. They would be as dangerous as the Velkoth." Shiara waited for the noise to die down. She had expected this reaction. The humans had been isolated on their world for 200 years. The galaxy had voted to keep them there after the border wars, when humanity had first reached the stars and immediately started fighting over territory. They were too aggressive, too violent, too unpredictable. But Shiara had studied them. She had read the reports about their planet, Earth. It was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most hostile environments known to support intelligent life. The gravity was crushing. The weather was extreme. The oceans were full of predators. Even the plants could kill you, and the humans thrived there. "The Velkoth have destroyed 15 worlds," Shiara said quietly. "They will destroy 15 more, then 50, then 100. We have nothing that can stop them. The humans do." An elder from the Praxian collective spoke up. His voice buzzed with anger. "The humans are contained for good reason. They fight each other constantly. Their entire history is war." "Exactly," Shiara said. "They know how to fight. We do not." The debate went on for hours. Some species refused even to consider the idea. Others were desperate enough to try anything. Finally, the vote came. It was close, but the decision was made. Someone would go to Earth and ask for help. Shiara volunteered immediately. She knew the risks. The journey alone might kill her. Earth's environment was deadly to most species. The gravity would crush her bones. The oxygen levels would poison her blood. The bacteria in the air could cause infections that no medicine could cure. But she had seen the images from the destroyed colonies. She had seen what the Velkoth did to living creatures. Death by Earth's environment would be faster and cleaner. The Council gave her a specially designed ship with life support systems built for extreme conditions. They gave her a diplomatic packet with all the information about the Velkoth threat. They gave her a translator programmed with thousands of human languages. What they could not give her was any guarantee that the humans would help, or that they would not simply kill her on sight. The journey took 3 weeks. Shiara spent most of that time in a suspension chamber, her body kept alive by machines. When she finally approached Earth's solar system, she was terrified. The system was heavily defended. Weapons platforms orbited every planet. Automated defense systems locked onto her ship immediately. She broadcast the diplomatic codes on every frequency. "I am Representative Shiara of the Lysandri people. I come on behalf of the Galactic Council. We need your help." For long minutes, there was no response. Then a voice crackled over the communication system. It was deep and rough, nothing like the musical tones of her own people. "This is Earth Defense Command. State your business," Shiara explained as simply as she could. The Velkoth, the destroyed worlds, the Council's desperation. She transmitted images of the devastation, hoping the humans would understand. Another long silence. Then, "You are cleared to land at Denver Spaceport. Medical teams will be standing by. Do not leave your ship until the environment is secured." The landing was the hardest thing Shiara had ever experienced. Even with the ship's artificial gravity, she could feel Earth's pull the moment they entered the atmosphere. It felt like a giant hand pressing down on her entire body. Her heart beat faster, struggling to pump blood through her compressed circulatory system. When the ship landed, she could barely move. Human technicians in protective suits attached a transfer tunnel to her ship's airlock. They pumped in an atmosphere mixture that would not kill her immediately. Even so, she felt dizzy and weak. The humans who met her were giants. They moved easily despite the crushing gravity. Their faces were strange, with flat features and too much exposed flesh. But their eyes showed concern. "Welcome to Earth, Representative Shiara," one of them said. Her uniform marked her as Commander Elena Vasquez. "We've prepared a habitat module for you. Please, let us help you." Shiara tried to walk and immediately collapsed. The gravity was too much. The humans moved quickly, catching her before she hit the ground. They lifted her carefully onto a floating stretcher and rushed her to the habitat module. Over the next few days, Shiara recovered slowly. The human doctors worked constantly to keep her alive. One of them, Dr. James Chun, barely slept. He adjusted her environment, modified her medical equipment, and found ways to reduce the stress on her body. When she thanked him, he simply smiled and said, "It is what we do." Commander Vasquez visited her often. She asked detailed questions about the Velkoth, their numbers, their tactics, their biology. She studied the images of destroyed colonies with cold, calculating eyes. "You quarantined us because we are too violent," Vasquez said during one visit. "Now you want us to be violent for you." Shiara's crystal body flickered with shame. "Yes, I know it is hypocritical. I know we have no right to ask. But millions of beings will die if the Velkoth are not stopped." Vasquez was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Tell me about your people. What are we really fighting for?" Shiara showed her images of Lysandri crystal gardens, where her people grew sculptures of living light. She showed her their poetry, carved in stone to last for millennia. She showed her the schools where young Lysandri learned philosophy and art. She showed her children playing in fields of singing flowers. Vasquez studied each image carefully. Her face was hard to read, but something changed in her eyes. "We will help you," she finally said. "But understand this. When humans go to war, we go all the way. We do not stop until the enemy is completely defeated. Can you accept that?" Shiara thought about the destroyed colonies. She thought about the millions already dead, and the billions who would die if nothing changed. She thought about her own children, safe for now but threatened by the advancing swarm. "Yes," she said. "We can accept that." Vasquez smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. "Then the Deathworlders are going to war." Commander Elena Vasquez stood in front of 20,000 volunteers and felt the weight of what was about to happen. Behind her on the massive display screen, images of destroyed alien colonies played on repeat. Worlds turned to ash. Cities consumed by living ships. Bodies that had once been people, now just organic matter being processed by the Velkoth swarm. 200 years ago, the galaxy decided we were too dangerous, she said, her voice carrying across the massive assembly hall. They said we were too violent, too aggressive, too unpredictable. They locked us away on Earth and told us to stay here. Now they need us to be exactly what they feared. The crowd was silent. These were soldiers, pilots, engineers, medics, and support staff from every nation on Earth. They had volunteered within hours of the call going out. Some were career military. Others had never seen combat. All of them understood what they were signing up for. The Velkoth do not negotiate, Vasquez continued. They do not take prisoners. They consume everything in their path. 15 worlds are gone. Billions of beings are dead. The Galactic Council has no idea how to fight them. But we do, because fighting is what Earth taught us to do. She paused and looked across the sea of faces. Young and old. Every skin color humanity had to offer. Every culture, every background. Earth's children united for the first time in their history by a common purpose. This will not be easy, she said. Many of us will not come home. But those aliens out there, the ones asking for our help, they are poets and artists and philosophers. They have children. They have families. They have never known war the way we have. And if we do not help them, they will all die. The volunteers stood as one. No words were needed. The decision was made. Training began immediately. The humans had 2 months to prepare before the fleet could launch. It was not enough time, but it would have to do. The training was intense, brutal, and exactly what the volunteers expected from their Deathworld heritage. Lieutenant Marcus Webb led his squad through zero-gravity combat drills. They practiced fighting in vacuum and radiation zones in extreme temperatures. They trained with weapons the galaxy considered barbaric. Explosives, flamethrowers, kinetic weapons that relied on simple physics rather than elegant energy fields. The Velkoth are biological, Webb told his squad. They grow, they adapt, they learn. But they still follow the rules of biology. Fire kills biology. Explosions destroy tissue. We are going to use every dirty trick Earth ever taught us. Pilot Sarah Chun trained in high-gravity maneuvers that would liquefy most alien species. Human bodies, built for Earth's crushing gravity, could handle acceleration forces that would kill others. Their fighters would be faster, more aggressive, and more unpredictable than anything the galaxy had ever seen. We are not going to fight like them, she told her squadron. We are going to fight like us. Fast, mean, and absolutely relentless. Dr. James Chun, who had saved Shiara's life when she first arrived, now worked on combat medicine. He trained medics to treat injuries in hostile environments. He developed new techniques for field surgery under fire. He created medical protocols that assumed his patients would keep fighting even while badly wounded. Humans are stubborn, he told his medical teams. Our bodies are designed to survive trauma that would kill most species instantly. Use that. Keep them alive, keep them fighting, and get them home. Throughout all of this, Shiara watched. The Council had asked her to stay on Earth as a liaison to help the humans understand what they were fighting for. But what she saw terrified her almost as much as the Velkoth. Human children played games. That involved tackling each other to the ground. They laughed while doing it. Shiara watched a young human fall from a climbing structure and scrape his knee badly enough to bleed. The child cried for a moment, then got up and kept playing. Is he not injured? She asked Dr. Chun. It is just a scrape, Chun replied, confused. He will be fine. Shiara's people would have needed medical attention for such an injury. Human children treated it as nothing. She watched the soldiers train and saw them push their bodies to limits that should have caused collapse. They ran until they could barely breathe, then kept running. They lifted weights that should have crushed their bones. They fought each other in practice matches with a ferocity that looked like real combat, and they smiled while doing it. Do they enjoy pain? She asked Vasquez during one observation session. No, Vasquez said. But we understand that growth comes through challenge. Pain means we are pushing ourselves to be better. It is how we evolve. Your entire species evolved through suffering, Shiara said quietly. Yes, Vasquez agreed. And now that suffering might save your species. Despite her fear, Shiara also saw humanity's other side. The soldiers formed close bonds with each other. They looked after the weaker members of their units. They shared food, told jokes, and supported each other through the brutal training. When one soldier broke his arm during a drill, his entire squad stayed with him in the medical bay. They told him stories and made him laugh even though he was clearly in pain. When he was released and told he could not deploy with the fleet, he cried. His squad mates cried with him. We do not abandon our own, Webb told Shiara. That is the rule. That is the rule. No one gets left behind. She saw the scientists working 20-hour days to develop new weapons and defensive systems. She saw engineers building ships that could survive in conditions no alien vessel could handle. She saw logistics personnel calculating supply chains with obsessive precision. And she saw the family saying goodbye. The day before the fleet launched, Earth held a ceremony. Shiara attended, watching as 20,000 soldiers stood with their families one last time. Parents hugged their children. Spouses kissed goodbye. Children who barely understood where their mothers and fathers were going tried to be brave. One soldier, a young woman barely 20 years old, hugged her mother for a long time. I will come back, she promised. I know you will, her mother said, even though both of them knew it might be a lie. Shiara felt her crystal body flicker with emotion. These humans were going to fight and possibly die for people they had never met. For a galaxy that had imprisoned them. Because it was the right thing to do. That night, Vasquez found Shiara in the observation deck, looking up at the stars. Are you having second thoughts? Vasquez asked. I am terrified, Shiara admitted. Of the Velkoth. Of what might happen. But also of your people. You are so strong, so violent, so unstoppable. What if we are unleashing something we cannot control? Vasquez was quiet for a moment. That is a fair fear, she finally said. We are dangerous. Earth made us that way. But you know what else Earth taught us? That strength should protect the weak. That power comes with responsibility. That the strong survive by helping others survive. She gestured at the stars. We could have said no. We could have stayed here, safe behind our quarantine, and let the galaxy burn. But that is not who we are. We fight because someone has to. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy will learn that Deathworlders are not monsters. We are just survivors teaching others how to survive. The next morning, the first Terran expeditionary fleet launched. 20,000 humans in 200 ships, heading out into a galaxy that feared them. Shiara watched them go and sent a prayer to whatever forces might be listening. The Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kethis system. Commander Vasquez stood on the bridge of the flagship, the TE's Indomitable, and studied the tactical display. What she saw made her jaw tighten. Kethis Prime was dying. The planet hung in space like a wounded animal, surrounded by hundreds of Velkoth vessels. The alien ships were not like anything humanity had built. They were organic, living things that pulsed and writhed as they moved. They looked like massive insects crossed with deep-sea creatures, all chitinous armor and grasping appendages. The local defense force was down to 3 ships. Vasquez watched as one of them tried to break through the Velkoth swarm to reach the planet. A dozen Velkoth vessels intercepted it. They attached themselves to the hull like parasites and began feeding. Within minutes, the ship's metal was being consumed, converted into more Velkoth biomass. The ship's distress signals cut off abruptly. All ships. This is command, Vasquez said, her voice cold and steady. We are going in. Target the Velkoth vessels, attacking the defense force. Show them what happens when you attack someone under our protection. The galactic officers on the remaining defense ships expected the humans to request tactical data. They expected coordination meetings. They expected the careful, measured approach that galactic doctrine demanded. Instead, the human fleet accelerated directly into the swarm. All Terran units, weapons free, Vasquez said. Show them what a Deathworld breeds. The first Terran expeditionary fleet hit the Volkoth swarm like a hammer. Human fighters screamed through gaps that should have been too narrow, their pilots pulling G-forces that would have killed any other species. Missiles streaked across the void, each one guided by human reflexes evolved from millions of years of hunting. Lieutenant Marcus Webb commanded a boarding ship called the Cerberus. His mission was simple and insane. Get inside a Volkoth vessel and destroy it from within. Punch it. Webb ordered his pilot. The Cerberus accelerated toward a Volkoth tender, one of the larger vessels that spawned the smaller attack forms. Point defense systems hammered the human ship, but its armor held. The ship rammed directly into the Volkoth's side, and the boarding ramps deployed. Webb and his squad charged into the organic corridors of the living ship. The environment was toxic, the air full of spores and acids. The temperature was extreme. Radiation levels would have killed most species within minutes. The humans moved through it like they were on a training exercise. Contact! Someone shouted. Volkoth defender forms swarmed out of the walls. They were biological weapons, grown specifically for combat. They had claws like swords and armor like tank plating. They moved fast and hit hard. Webb's squad opened fire. Kinetic weapons tore through the defender forms. Explosives blew holes in the organic walls. When the Volkoth adapted and grew harder armor, the humans switched to flamethrowers. The galaxy considered flamethrowers barbaric. The humans considered them effective. Keep moving. Webb shouted over the sound of combat. We need to reach the core. They fought their way deeper into the ship. The Volkoth's immune system attacked them, spraying acids and toxins. Webb felt his armor starting to corrode. One of his squad members took a hit of acid to the leg and went down screaming. Can you walk? Webb asked. The soldier looked at his smoking leg, gritted his teeth, and stood up. I can fight. That was the human way. You fought until you could not fight anymore, and then you fought a little more. They reached the ship's core, a massive organic chamber pulsing with bioluminescent fluids. Webb placed the nuclear charges carefully while his squad held off waves of defenders. Charges set, he reported. Cerberus, we need extraction now. The boarding ship punched back through the Volkoth vessel's hull. Webb and his squad ran through the collapsing corridors, the living ship convulsing around them. They dove through the airlock just as the Cerberus pulled away. The nuclear charges detonated. The Volkoth tender exploded in a burst of organic matter and energy. One down, Webb said, already loading his weapons for the next target. Let us go find another one. Across the battle space, similar scenes played out. Human ships engaged at ranges the Volkoth had not anticipated. Human tactics were unpredictable, switching between aggressive charges and clever ambushes. When the Volkoth adapted to one strategy, the humans changed to another. Pilot Sarah Chun flew her fighter through a cloud of Volkoth spores that would have clogged any normal ship systems. Her fighter's engines were designed for Earth's atmosphere, full of dust and pollution. A few biological spores were nothing. She locked onto a Volkoth destroyer and fired missiles. The Volkoth ship grew armor plates to deflect them. Chum smiled and fired again, this time aiming for the spots where the armor plates connected. The missiles punched through and detonated inside the ship. That is for Colony 7, she said quietly, thinking of the images she had seen of the destroyed worlds. On the planet below, the siege was breaking. The Volkoth had been landing ground forces. consuming everything they touched. Human dropships punched through the orbital blockade and landed. Troops directly in the combat zones. The Galactic Defenders had been trying to hold defensive positions, conserving their limited forces. The humans had a different approach. They attacked. Marine squads pushed into Velkoth-held territory with a ferocity that shocked both allies and enemies. They used explosives, fire, and sheer aggression to drive the Velkoth back. When defenders ran out of ammunition, they used their combat knives. When they ran out of knives, they used their bare hands. A Lysandri officer watched in amazement as a human soldier, wounded and bleeding, tackled a Velkoth warrior twice his size. The human's armor was breached. He should have been dead from the toxic environment. Instead, he was winning the fight. How? The Lysandri officer asked Dr. Chen, who was treating wounded in a field hospital. Evolution, Chen said simply, working to stabilize a human soldier with injuries that should have been fatal. Earth is a death world. Our bodies learn to survive what should kill us. Our immune systems fight toxins. Our bones can take impacts that would shatter yours. Our blood clots faster. Our pain tolerance is higher. We are built for this. The battle for Kethis Prime lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Velkoth swarm was broken. Hundreds of their vessels were destroyed. The survivors retreated in disorder, something the galactic observers had never seen them do before. The humans had suffered casualties. 20 ships lost. 300 soldiers dead. 800 wounded. These were numbers that would have devastated any galactic force. The humans counted it as a victory. Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and looked at the casualty reports. Each name was someone she knew, someone who had trained under her command. The weight of their loss pressed down on her like Earth's gravity, but the battle was won. Kethis Prime was saved, and the galaxy now knew that the Velkoth could be defeated. A transmission came in from the Galactic Defense Coordinator, a Praxian named Zekthar. His voice buzzed with a mixture of gratitude and fear. Commander Vasquez, your tactics were effective, but also brutal. Many of my officers are disturbed by what they witnessed. War is brutal, Vasquez replied. Your people have forgotten that because you have not had to fight one in 3,000 years. We never forgot. And now that knowledge is keeping you alive. She cut the transmission and turned to her officers. Get me damage reports. Repair what we can. Treat the wounded. And prepare for the next battle. This was just a splinter force. The main swarm is still out there. Lieutenant Webb limped onto the bridge, his armor scorched and dented. Permission to speak freely, Commander? Granted. That was the most insane combat operation I have ever been part of. And I volunteered for Special Forces. He grinned. When do we do it again? Vasquez smiled despite the exhaustion and grief. This was humanity. Battered, wounded, grieving for their dead, and already ready for the next fight. Rest while you can, Lieutenant, she said. The Velkoth will be back. And when they come, we will be ready. On the planet below, the freed Lysandri colonists emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the human ships in orbit and felt a complex mixture of emotions. Gratitude for being saved. Fear of the violence they had witnessed. Wonder at the existence of beings who could fight like that and win. A young Lysandri child asked her mother a question that would echo across the galaxy in the days to come. Are the humans good or bad? The mother looked at the human ships, thinking of the soldiers who had fought through hell to save them. I do not know, she admitted, but I am glad they are on our side. The news of humanity's victory at Kethis Prime spread across the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time in months, there was hope. The Velkoth could be defeated. The swarm could be stopped. And the humans, the quarantined Deathworlders, were the ones doing it. But not everyone celebrated. Commander Vasquez sat in her quarters on the Indomitable and read the intelligence reports. The Galactic Council was dividing into factions. Some species praised humanity as saviors. Others whispered that they had simply traded one monster for another. Political debates raged about what would happen after the war was over. Would humanity accept going back into quarantine? Could they be trusted with freedom? Were they the galaxy's protectors or its next threat? Vasquez deleted the reports without finishing them. She had more immediate concerns. The Velkoth were regrouping, and the human fleet was pushing deeper into their territory. Every day brought new battles, new casualties, new names added to the list of the dead. She had lost friends. Captain Rodriguez, who used to play chess with her during the long training days. Lieutenant Kim, who made terrible jokes that somehow always made people laugh. Ensign Okoye, who was only 19 years old and had lied about his age to enlist. Each death weighed on her. But she could not stop. She had seen what the Velkoth did to the worlds they conquered. She had seen the bodies, the destruction, the complete and absolute consumption of everything living. If she stopped now, more worlds would die. More species would be wiped out. The fleet pressed on. 3 weeks after Kethis Prime, they reached Tremora. The planet had been under Velkoth occupation for a month. The initial reports said there were no survivors. The humans went in anyway. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. The Velkoth had not killed all the colonists. They had kept some alive. The Lysandri colonists were being used as a food source. Their crystal bodies slowly harvested while they were kept in a state of semi-consciousness. It was efficient from the Velkoth perspective. Fresh organic matter lasted longer than dead tissue. Lieutenant, Webb Squad found the first harvesting chamber and immediately called for medical support. Dr. Chun arrived within minutes, took one look at the scene, and felt his stomach turn. He had seen combat injuries, had treated soldiers with horrific wounds. This was different. This was deliberate torture on an industrial scale. Get them out, he ordered. All of them. I do not care if we do not have enough medical supplies. We are not leaving anyone behind. The humans worked frantically to free the Lysandri prisoners. Many were too far gone, their bodies so damaged that even human medical technology could not save them. Chun worked for 18 hours straight, trying to save every life he could. He lost more than half of them. One Lysandri survivor, a female named Thiala, grabbed Chun's hand as he worked on her. Her crystal body was dull and cracked, barely alive. Why? She whispered. Why did you come for us? You do not know us. Your people were locked away because of us. Chun looked at her with exhausted, haunted eyes. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. Because no one deserves this. Because we are human, and humans do not leave people to suffer if we can help it. Tiala died 3 hours later. Chun sat next to her body for a long time, too tired to move, too numb to cry. The images from Tremora were transmitted back to Earth. The human population saw what the Velkoth really were, what they did to their victims. The war became personal in a way it had not been before. More volunteers tried to enlist. Earth's governments had to turn people away. The fleet could not support more troops without a proper supply line. But the message was clear. Humanity was committed to this fight. On the Indomitable, xenobiologist Captain Sarah Okonkwo made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying captured Velkoth samples, trying to understand their biology. What she found disturbed her. They are not mindless, she told Vasquez. They have intelligence. Sophisticated intelligence. They are following a program, like a von Neumann probe, that got corrupted. They are supposed to consume and replicate, but something went wrong. They do not know how to stop. Can we communicate with them? Vasquez asked. Maybe, that there has to be a central intelligence. A queen mind coordinating everything. If we could find it, we could cut the head off the snake, Vasquez finished. Okonkwo pulled up her research data. Based on their behavior patterns and the way they coordinate attacks, I think the queen mind is somewhere in the Varus system. It is deep in Velkoth territory, heavily defended. Getting there would be suicide, Vasquez said. Yes, Vasquez looked at the tactical displays. The Varus system was 3 weeks away at maximum speed. The fleet would have to punch through multiple Velkoth defensive lines. They would be outnumbered by factors of 10 to 1. Even if they made it to the Queen Mind, there was no guarantee they could destroy it. It was the definition of a suicide mission. She called a meeting of her senior officers. She laid out Okonkwo's findings and the tactical situation. She explained what would be required. Then she made it clear that this would be a volunteer-only mission. I cannot order anyone to do this, she said. The odds are against us. Most of us will not make it back. But if we succeed, we end this war. We save billions of lives. We give the galaxy a future. She looked around the room at the faces of her officers. These were people she had trained with, fought beside, bled with. Some of them had been with her since Earth. Others had joined along the way. All of them were exhausted, wounded, grieving for friends they had lost. Who volunteers? She asked. Every hand in the room went up. Vasquez felt her throat tighten. She blinked back tears and nodded. Then we go together. All of us. We are going to kill that Queen Mind and end this war. The fleet began preparations immediately. They modified ships for the assault, stockpiled weapons and supplies, and planned the attack down to the last detail. They knew they were preparing for their own deaths, but no one backed out. No one complained. This was the human way. When something needed to be done, you did it. Even if it killed you. Shiara, still aboard the Indomitable as a liaison, watched the preparations with growing horror and admiration. She tried to convince Vasquez to wait for galactic reinforcements to find another way. There is no other way, Vasquez told her. And there is no time. Every day we wait, more people die. Your people, my people, everyone. But you will die, Shiara said, her crystal body flickering with distress. Maybe, Vasquez agreed. Or maybe we will win. Either way, we have to try. That is what humans do. We try, even when the odds are impossible. Especially when the odds are impossible. She put a hand on Shiara's shoulder, careful not to press too hard on the fragile crystal structure. If we do not make it back, tell them we tried. Tell them we fought for something bigger than ourselves. Tell them that Deathworlders are not monsters. We are just people who learned to fight because our world gave us no choice. Shiara could not speak. She simply nodded, her body reflecting the dim light of the ship and patterns of deep sadness. The fleet moved out 3 days later. 20,000 humans heading into the heart of Velkoth territory. Behind them, the galaxy watched and waited. Some prayed. Some debated. Some prepared for the worst. On Earth, in the cities and towns where the volunteers had come from, families gathered around displays to watch the fleet's progress. Parents held their children. Spouses held each other. Everyone hoped and feared in equal measure. The Deathworlders were going to finish this. One way or another, Lieutenant Webb stood in the armory, checking his weapons one last time. Another soldier, a young woman named Martinez, was doing the same. Think we will make it? Martinez asked. Webb considered the question. Honestly, probably not. But we might. And even if we do not, we will take so many of those things with us that the rest of the galaxy can finish the job. Martinez nodded. Good enough for me. That was the human spirit. Not fearless, but brave anyway. Not certain of victory, but willing to fight for it. not guaranteed to survive, but determined to make their deaths count for something. The fleet jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward the Varith system, toward the Queen Mind, toward the final battle. Commander Vasquez stood on the bridge and looked at her crew. "Whatever happens," she said, "it has been an honor serving with you all." They nodded back at her. No words were needed. They were human. They understood. The Varith system looked like hell itself. The humans dropped out of faster-than-light travel and immediately faced a wall of Velkoth vessels. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They swarmed around a shattered moon that pulsed with organic light, a massive structure that had been converted into a living fortress. The Queen Mind was there. They could feel it. "All ships, battle formation," Commander Vasquez ordered. Her voice was calm, steady, showing none of the fear that churned in her stomach. "We punch through. No matter what happens, we get to that moon." The first Terran expeditionary fleet accelerated into the swarm. This was different from Kethis Prime. This was not a skirmish or a rescue mission. This was a direct assault on the enemy's heart, and the Velkoth knew it. The battle was chaos from the first moment. Velkoth vessels threw themselves at the human ships in waves. They did not care about losses. They did not care about tactics. They just wanted to stop the humans from reaching the Queen Mind. The humans did not stop. Pilot Sarah Chun flew her fighter through a storm of organic projectiles and bioplasma. Her ship took hits that would have destroyed any normal vessel. Alarms screamed in her cockpit. Her co-pilot was dead, killed by shrapnel that punched through the canopy. Chun kept flying. "This is for Tremora," she whispered, launching her missiles at a Velkoth carrier. "This is for every world you destroyed." The carrier exploded. Chun banked hard and went looking for another target. She would keep fighting until her ship fell apart, or she did. That was the deal. On the Indomitable, Vasquez watched her fleet dying. One by one, ships went dark on the tactical display. The TE's relentless, breached, and burning. The TE's Thunderchild, consumed by the swarm. The TE's Defiant, deliberately ramming a Velkoth superstructure to clear a path for the others. Each loss was a knife to her heart. But they were getting closer to the moon. "All boarding teams, prepare for deployment," she ordered. "We are going in." Lieutenant Marcus Webb and his squad loaded into their assault ship. Around them, hundreds of other soldiers did the same. They knew the odds. They knew most of them would die in the next few hours. They went anyway. The assault ships launched, flying through a storm of fire toward the moon's surface. Half of them were destroyed before they made it. The survivors crashed onto the organic surface and deployed their troops. Webb hit the ground running. The moon's surface was alive, pulsing and writhing under their feet. Defender forms swarmed out of openings in the structure, biological nightmares designed for one purpose: killing anything that threatened the Queen Mind. "Forward!" Webb shouted. "Do not stop moving." His squad pushed ahead, firing constantly. Explosives, flames, kinetic rounds. Everything they had. The Velkoth defenders died by the hundreds, but there were always more. For everyone they killed, two more appeared. Webb took a hit to his shoulder. The pain was incredible, but he kept fighting. Alessandri would have collapsed. Apraxian would have needed immediate medical attention. Webb barely slowed down. "Wounded?" One of his soldiers asked. "I have another arm," Webb replied, switching his rifle to his left hand and continuing to fire. Dr. James Chun was supposed to stay on the ship. His job was to treat the wounded when they came back. But he knew no one was coming back from this mission. So he grabbed a medical kit and joined the assault teams on the moon. He moved through the chaos, treating soldiers who refused to stop fighting. He bandaged his wounds with one hand while firing a sidearm with the other. He gave pain medication to people who needed surgery and told them to keep moving. He saved lives in an environment that was trying to kill everyone. A young Marine, barely 20 years old, took a hit that tore open his chest. Chung got to him within seconds. "Am I going to die?" The Marine asked, blood bubbling from his lips. Chung looked at the wound. It was fatal. Any species in the galaxy would be dead already. The Marine had maybe 5 minutes. "Not if I have anything to say about it." Chung lied and went to work. The Marine lived. Somehow, impossibly, the combination of human biology and desperate medical care kept him alive. Chung got him onto a stretcher and sent him back to the ships. Then he moved on to the next casualty. Commander Vasquez led a strike team deeper into the moon structure. The corridors were organic tunnels that tried to close around them. The air was toxic. The temperature was extreme. The whole structure seemed to know they were there and was trying to kill them. They went deeper anyway. They lost people every meter they advanced. Vasquez watched her team shrink from 50 soldiers to 40 to 30 to 20. Each loss was someone she knew, someone she had trained, someone who trusted her to lead them. She kept moving forward. They reached a massive chamber, and there it was. The Queen Mind. It was enormous, a pulsing mass of biological tissue, connected to thousands of neural pathways that spread throughout the moon. It was beautiful in a horrifying way, a testament to what evolution could create when survival's the only directive. It spoke to them. Not in words, but in thoughts that pushed directly into their minds. "You are apex predators," the Queen Mind communicated. "Like us. Join us. Together, we could consume galaxies." Vasquez looked at the Queen Mind and thought about Tremora, about the Lysandri colonists kept alive as food, about the billions already dead, about the young Marine Chun had just saved, who should have died but refused to. "We did not claw our way to the top of Earth's food chain just to become part of yours," she said. She armed every nuclear device her team carried. The other survivors did the same. They had maybe 2 minutes before the Velkoth defenders overwhelmed them. "For Earth," Vasquez said quietly. "For the galaxy? For everyone who died to get us here." The detonations could be seen from orbit. The moon cracked like an egg, massive explosions tearing through the structure. The Queen Mind died, its last thought a mixture of surprise and something that might have been respect. The Velkoth swarm faltered immediately. Without the coordinating intelligence, the individual vessels became confused. They stopped working together. They became manageable threats instead of an unstoppable wave. The surviving human ships, battered and barely functional, began the cleanup operation. Pilot Sarah Chun, flying on emergency power with half her systems dead, helped hunt down the remaining Velkoth vessels. Each one she destroyed was a small victory. Of the landing force that had assaulted the moon, only 17 soldiers made it back to the extraction point. Lieutenant Webb was among them, missing an arm but still carrying his rifle. Dr. Chun was there too, covered in blood, most of it not his own. The young Marine he had saved was being carried by 2 other soldiers, but he was alive. Commander Vasquez did not make it out. She had stayed behind to make sure the nuclear devices detonated properly. She had made her choice, and she had made her peace with it. Her last transmission to the fleet was simple. Finish the job. Make it count. The war did not end immediately. It took months to hunt down the scattered Velkoth forces across the galaxy. But without the Queen Mind, they were no longer an existential threat. They could be defeated one group at a time. The galaxy mourned and celebrated in equal measure. 18,000 human soldiers had died in the final assault. Almost the entire First Terran Expeditionary Fleet was destroyed. But the Velkoth were broken, and the galaxy was saved. The Galactic Council met to decide humanity's fate. The debate was fierce. Some species wanted to reinstate the quarantine. Others argued that humanity had earned their freedom. Shiara, recovered and speaking for the Lysandri, made an impassioned speech. "Humanity is dangerous because Earth made them dangerous," she said, her crystal body glowing with emotion. "Their world is cruel, and it bred warriors. But it also bred protectors. It bred beings who will fight and die for strangers, who will suffer to save others, who will sacrifice everything for what is right." She looked around the council chamber. "We asked them to help us, and they did. 18,000 of them died for our mistakes. They saved us from a threat we created by our own weakness. And now we debate whether to imprison them again." The vote was close. Many species feared humanity's power. But in the end, gratitude and guilt won. Humanity was granted full council membership with one condition. They would help defend the galaxy when called upon. Earth's representative, the new commander of Terran Defense Forces, accepted. His name was Marcus Webb, and he was missing an arm but still standing tall. "We accept your offer," he said. "But we have a condition, too. No more quarantines. No more isolation. We are part of this galaxy now, for better or worse. You wanted to see what Deathworlders could do. Now, you know. We fight. We protect. We never give up. And we never, ever abandon our own." He paused and looked at the council. "That includes you now. You are under our protection. Anyone who threatens the galactic peace will answer to Earth." Some council members shifted uncomfortably. That sounded like a threat and a promise at the same time. But they had seen what humans could do. They had seen the cost humanity was willing to pay. They accepted the terms. On Earth, in a cemetery where the names of the fallen were carved in stone, a memorial was built. 18,000 names. 18,000 humans who had died for a galaxy that had once imprisoned them. At the center was a statue of Commander Elena Vasquez, her face determined, her eyes looking toward the stars.